But I
We tell you if we not see you, man, just stay to your right most of the time. Yeah, you're good.
All right.
see that
So,
no half it a block with it. You have to move this thing. Oh, this a
Turn,
block me.
turn your
No, you're
camera.
not being blocked.
Instead of
People
move your
look
body,
like
move
that
your
to you, but
camera,
you
and
see
then
you.
we all right. Yeah, right. That says good.
all right.
Yes, yes, yes. Good evening, one and all, and welcome to Waterhouse Vibes. A Sunday show that look at ourselves, Jamaican, at home and abroad. And sometimes we touch upon the international politics, but we know all things is local. So today we're going to continue a journey we start like 1 or 2 weeks ago, where we talk about police killings in Jamaica. Now that's a sensitive topic, and not a lot of people in Jamaica like talk about police killings and police brutality and what have you, because Jamaica set up in a way where it's just violence. Everybody want revenge and them use them strength, them influence, and them do things and get out a lot of things. Merely relying on the police force to carry out them dirty works amongst the youth. Today we are with us Brother Lloyd Aguilar, a brother man who I know of his works for a number of years now, defending ghetto youth in Kingston and St. Andrew. That's where I know Brother Lloyd that works in that area, and we have him for a specific reason, and that is to share his experience working in the trench, coming up against injustice by the state official, state officer against ordinary poor black youth in Kingston and St. Andrew, even in Jamaica, because that is where I go and we see most of the death are just black youths from the ghetto, and I think Lloyd has a lot to share with us. We can learn and can share with us some of the insight he has from this work that he's doing. In addition to Brother Lloyd, I have with me Brother Patrick, John, and Las Crawford. These brothers are fighters for equal right and justice inside of Jamaica, in and outside of Jamaica. And I hope that at the end of this interaction, you, the listeners, will learn something about Jamaica and yourself. Because I want to say this. Those of us who born and grew and raised in Kingston and St. Andrew, we have a unique perspective when it comes to police. As we live, this is not theory for us when it comes to Kingston and St. Andrew. As a young youth, remember how the police used to deal with the dance, rough up youth, round them up, and, that sort of thing going and get away with that. Today, I hope that with Brother Lloyd Aguilar, we'll shed some light on some of the things happening in our homeland, especially how the police conduct themselves when it comes to poor black youth in Jamaica. Not just youth, but poor black people, families, wife, husband, common law, wife. I hope we all learn something. Brother Lloyd, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Evening, brother. I'm start by asking how you don't know.
I'm good.
How you want Jamaica treating you and what have you, because that experience around the Tivoli yard, and here I'm talking about the Tivoli committee that you set up. to try and bring justice to the people at Tivoli Garden. You know, how life a treat you in Jamaica just now?
Well, let me kind of give a little background historically, you know, where Jamaica is concerned. You know, we coming from slavery, and the first biggest slave anti-colonial uprising was in 1865 with Paul Bogle and George William Gordon, and there was a big massacre in response to that uprising, which started in St. Thomas, and the governor just tell the police must just go in there and kill. And that is what they did. They went in there and they killed hundreds. Some people say maybe thousands of people that they killed in 1865. And the governor was returned to England. The Jamaica committee tried to put him on trial for the massacre which was committed, but unfortunately nothing really came of it. And let me say that the next biggest massacre to take place was in 2010 in Tivoli Gardens, where the police went in there and officially they claimed that 70 people were killed. The people give you a different story that is about 200 people that were killed. It was not no 70 people. And a lot of the bodies were just dumped in the Maypen Cemetery. And, you know, the figure was much higher. It was a massacre, just like how you see Israel committing a massacre in Gaza right now. That is what took place in Tivoli Gardens. And just knock at a man's door, a woman's door, go in there and kill them, thief them money, and sometimes sexually abuse the women, etc. That was what happened in Tivoli Gardens in 2010. It was not an incursion, as they call it. It was a massacre. It was a planned massacre. In other words, the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, the head of the police and the head of the army, they got together and they planned what needed to be done. They claimed that they were going in there to arrest Christopher Dudus-Coke. But, you know, Christopher Dudus-Coke was out of there in no time, right? No time he was out of there. And they decided to teach the people a lesson. And so they did what they did. The Prime Minister himself knew what was going on because the people would call him on their phone and say, Mr. Prime Minister, this is what is going on. He did absolutely nothing, right? Dudus-Coke was able to escape and he went to a government building somewhere in Centon, I think it was. And, you know, eventually he came back to Kingston and they sent him to America. He's now in prison and they're claiming that he will be released in another couple of years, etc., etc. Those three people at least, the three superior commanders, the Prime Minister, the head of the army, and the head of the police should have been put on trial for the crimes that were committed, but nothing happened. We advocated for the involvement of the International Criminal Court, but Jamaica did not sign this did not sign up to the International Criminal Court, right? So the International Criminal Court would have had to intervene itself, and they didn't do it. And no other country was going to go to the International Criminal Court and say, listen, a massacre took place in Jamaica. You need to do something about it. Just like how South Africa went before the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice and brought Israel and Netanyahu, etc., before the ICC. And an arrest warrant has been issued for them. If they go anywhere, they can be arrested, right? Of course, no country is bold enough to do that, but that is how that worked out. Well, in Jamaica, we have the Terrorism Prevention Act. And we could have used those 3 superior commanders before the Terrorism Prevention Act, but it wasn't done. All right. So those are some of the shortcomings in the legal system that exists in Jamaica, the political system. Neither the PNP nor the JLP wanted to hold these superior commanders accountable because they are all also themselves compromised. And let me deal with the compromise now, because it is important that people understand that police extrajudicial killings is a policy of state. It is not that the police them just decide to them want to kill a man. It is the state, the leaders of the government and the state who give them that permission to go there and do what they do, because that is a policy and they don't have the solution to crime, right? Some of the solution is to give the people jobs, give them education, give them health care, etc., etc. Nobody's interested in doing that in terms of solving crime. So because they are not prepared to do those things, they give them the green light to go there and kill, right? So that is their response. I must remember now that it started from the very beginning from Bustamante, right? It started in Bustamante, was the first prime minister. And Bustamante, there was an incident in Coral Gardens, and Bustamante tell the police, right, to bring back all Rastas, dead or alive, right? So go in there and kill them, right? That is what Bustamante did. And must also, I want to get into it, but Bustamante was leaking out against Rastas from very beginning, with, you know, from the formation of the Rastafarian movement. He was. And this continued after Bustamante all the way up to the present prime minister, that they all give a wink and a nod at police extrajudicial killings. You can go out there and do it. Hugh Shearer once told the police, shoot first and ask questions later. Don't measure the distance between you and a criminal, right? And they all did that. Michael Manley set up the Suppression of Crime Act. And that is when, you know, they use the Suppression of Crime Act like a state of emergency and just go out there and kill people and all that kind of stuff. It has continued under prime minister after prime minister after prime minister. The latest situation is that the current Minister of National Security tell the police that they must, you know, when they shoot somebody, don't call an ambulance. Don't call no ambulance. He has said that, and he has never backed off of that. The current prime minister, right, a few years ago, he was giving a public speech, and right beside him was Peter Phillips, the former Minister of National Security under the PNP government. And Holness said that governments of the past have used killings, extrajudicial killings, to fight crime. And he's saying, well, I'm not going to do it anymore, so I'm going to go it legally. Peter Phillips never stand up and said, boy, it's foolishness you're talking, because under me, I never gave that kind of green light, right? He was just totally silent. Well, nothing has changed under the present prime minister. Extrajudicial killings have continued. So he's just running up his mouth and talking and hasn't done anything. But he has admitted that extrajudicial killings has been a policy of state under government after government, and now including his government, because he hasn't done anything about it, right? So we must remember that. Plus, the other day, there was some killings between police and, you know, fighting, so-called fighting gangs. And the message from the prime minister was, you know, kill them or whatever, or send them to their maker, right? That's what he said, send them to their maker. So you read between the lines as to the message that he's sending them. And recently, Jamaicans for Justice made an issue about the fact that there have been 50 police killings in the past 50 days. So then killing one person, at least on the average, one a day. right? And the killing rate has escalated. And if they were to kill one per day, then it's 365 days in the year. So we possibly could have 365 killings for the whole year, right? And as I said before, it is a policy of state. International human rights organizations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and even the US State Department have stated and acknowledged that, you know, there's a very serious problem in Jamaica where police extrajudicial killings is concerned, right? It's not like you're inventing what is going on. And in response to that, the Minister of National Security and the police commissioner leak out against JFJ and says, you know, what kind of thing that you're talking, right? And first of all, JFJ said, well, you know, you need to start wearing body cameras. And the police have over 700 body cameras. They don't wear them. And why aren't they wearing them? Well, between the police commissioner and the Minister of National Security. Well, if you go out there and a man shoot at you, you're going to duck. And then when you duck, the camera going to, you know, all kind of something on your shoulder, blah, 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 which is just absolute nonsense, right? Many of these killings are planned operations. And guess what? Many of these operations take place at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So they know where they're going. And you're tell me, say, you go to somebody's house at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and what, they're waiting on you with their guns to because they know you're coming. It's nonsense. These are planned operations. And if it is a planned operation, then the policemen involved in that operation should be wearing body cameras, and they are not. If one man camera get ruffled, then you should have 3 or 4 or 5 others that can you know, that would have taped the operation, and you can prove it. So INDECOM, Independent Commission of Investigations, has also been making that point that the police are not wearing the body cameras. But the police commissioner, in response to Jamaicans for Justice, is saying, well, listen, we do what we have to do. You must focus on those who are fighting the police. You must focus on those who are fighting the police. You know, that is what he's saying, right? And downplay the issue about body cameras and all that kind of stuff, right? And he's saying that INDECOM, we rely on INDECOM to do the investigation and so on. So we do what we have to do, and INDECOM will do its job. Well, listen, in Jamaica here, every aspect of the situation is compromised. Corruption, the bodies that investigate corruption are compromised, right? And even INDECOM has its own challenges in terms of coming up conclusively with information and claims against police who commit killings, because they go out there and them have to hear what the police tell them. And of course, it's pure lie the police are going to tell them. Even sometimes people who see with their own eyes are going to feel challenged that, you know, police may come after them, etc., etc., etc. So the recommendation for charges against police by INDECOM has not been what one would expect, right? So, you know, every organization is set up in such a way that they are compromised. And so therefore, and even if they recommend a police being charged or whatever it is, then the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecution, is the one who is now going to make the decision as to whether to charge or not. The DPP is also compromised. It is compromised because it's a state policy. And if the Prime Minister is saying kill, and the Prime Minister is responsible for employing you, and and so on and so forth, then you can see how the system, the political system is compromised, the investigative system, everything is compromised. And so therefore, to say that police extrajudicial killings is a policy of state is not cussing them out or whatever it is. It is well founded. It is a policy of state, right? And as I said before, you can go way back to Bustamante and come back again, and you will find police commissioners, you will find prime ministers, ministers of national security, DPP, and even INDICOM, which have done things to kind of, give them the power to do what it is that they do. And we should also mention that time and time again, citizens in these residents in these communities go on demonstration, them lock down the place because them see with them own eye when the police come in there and kill people, right? But it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere because we need a sustained movement to bring this matter to the fore, right? So it's good that the people in the community protest and so on and so forth. But after them done protest, that's the end of it. And then it switch over to Montego Bay, and it switch over to Westmoreland or Portland or Kingston or wherever it is. But if we could have a movement of all the areas where this extrajudicial killing is taking place and build a movement based on that, then I believe that we would be able to, to have some changes take place and to have these people. But as I said, the PNP and the GLP, both of them are compromised along this thing. And then now, just to make a few more points, so, and then we can, I know we want to have a discussion, but we are now in the process of becoming a republic. In other words, we're going to leave the monarchy and now we're going to become a republic, right? But guess what? The monarchy is corrupt and the republic will be corrupt. There will be absolutely no difference between being part of the monarchy and being a republic, because it's the same corrupt politicians which will be running the show, right? You tell me what is going to happen. Absolutely nothing is going to change, apart from one man say, boy, me is the president or whatever it is, or however he becomes the president. That is all that is going to take to change. And since they had set up a committee to investigate how the Constitution should be changed, my group, the People's Anti-Corruption Movement, was saying that, hey, you need to talk to the people, and some of the changes that need to be put in the Constitution are things against corruption, things against police extrajudicial killings, right? We need to talk about free education for the people, because education is a big issue. We need to talk about health care. That is a big issue for the people as well. And we need to talk about land for the landless, because there are a whole heap of people in the rural areas who want to grow food and look after them children and so on, and they can't do it because the big landlords, the ex-sugar estates and so on and so forth, control the land, even though it is idle land. And when these people go on the land and try to do a thing, the next thing you know, bulldozer and police and whatever it is come and mash down them and prevent them from doing what they want to do.
Let me ask you.
Let him finish, man. Let him finish.
John,
finish. Go ahead.
I'll wrap up. So so as I said, I'm saying that that is the way we need to look at things. We need to have fundamental changes. It's not just cosmetic stuff that we need. And just one more point, which is that in very short order, within a month, the government is going to announce the date for the general elections. And given all of the things that we have said, no difference between PNP and JLP, no third party which comes up with an alternative. My group is advocating that there should be a boycott of the general elections to send a message to PNP and JLP that we are not going to continue to put up with corruption and with police extrajudicial killings and all the deficiencies which are taking place. And we need to go out there on the street, we need to protest, we need to hold up placards, and we need to seriously confront the political system.
There's a lot of stuff we need to do, Lloyd. A lot of stuff we need to do, but you raise a lot, my brother. You raise a lot, and it's a long time we're dealing with this police problem, you know. And we look like we make one step forward and two steps backward, because at a certain point, police used to be involved in the community. You know, remember youth clubs, them used to have police youth clubs, and them used to interact with the community on a certain level. You know, but we still had the problem, the police brutality. And I don't know what to say, because it's either a force, as another force is going to emerge in Jamaica that is willing to force the reform of the police. You know, and your movement involved in that sort of work, right?
Yes.
You're interacting with the police and in terms of how them policy develop and all of that.
Well, let me just give a quick personal thing. A year and a half ago, we decided that we're going to go out there and hold up placards against corruption, against the government complicity with the massacre in Israel and police killings, etc. And me and a woman, two of us, because we went there early and so hold up placard. And the next thing you know, the police came and told us to move. And we said we don't have to move because we're not having a march, we're not having a public meeting, we're standing up, we have a constitutional right to hold up a placard and stand up, freedom of expression. And the next thing you know, we were arrested. We were taken to the Halfway Tree police station. It took a year before we finally went to court. And we defended ourselves and told the judge that, hey, we're not violating the Public Order Act. We have a constitutional right to stand up and hold up a placard and express ourselves. Well, the judge had no choice, so he dismissed the case against us and we walked out. But the point I'm really trying to make with that is that we have to step up those kind of protests, and the state in turn tries to intimidate you in terms of taking a position. It's like just recently, a woman, Dana Warren, she had a little thing on social media after the police killed a Don from the area in Kingston who had a relationship with the police, and they had a protest in Spanish Town. And because she put out a social media protest saying, "Well, if lockdown
Spanish Town,
they arrested her. What did they arrest her for? Malicious communication. Can you imagine that? So you don't have freedom of speech in this country. The police, whenever they choose, they can say, "I don't like what you say," and then lock you up. So,
but the issue is that,
Mikey, just a point, Mikey. We have a guest, a new guest on the program. Could you introduce the guest and we can go on?
Yes. Let me welcome Sister Maxine and Brother Randy from out of Miami. Welcome both of you, man. We have a special guest today, Brother Lloyd Aguilar, and what we're doing is looking at the topic of police brutality in Jamaica. So that is the trend and direction we're going. Okay, so hope you join. Yeah, like what I was saying to you is that the absence of citizen activism. Not many citizens like yourself out on the road that confront. That allowed a lot of the police them to get away with them stuff over the years. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there used to be Jamaicans for Justice and Families Against State Terrorism used to in the past, focus on police killings, but these organizations have backed off, fast collapse. And Jamaicans for Justice, well, recently they are now challenging the police. But, one of the problems, in Jamaica is that just like in what's happening in America now, where Trump comes in and Trump says no more USAID support to what's happening in these countries. A lot of organizations here who would be involved in human rights activism get money from USAID. And when they get money from USAID, they know that they have to watch what they say and what they do, right? I'll just give you a little example. The other day, a year or so ago, everybody knows Trevor
sharp like a razor.
Trevor Monroe was at a public meeting and the US ambassador was there. And it looked like them had a private conversation. It wasn't public yet. And Trevor said, boy, the government corrupt. And the ambassador said, how dare you call Holness corrupt? And then, the next day, you know what I'm saying? You get money from USAID, you're not getting any more money because we're not getting value for money from you. And they cut off completely all the money that was sent to Trevor Monroe's group. And the same thing happened all the while. When they're getting money from the USAID, from the American Embassy, from the European Union, etc., these people tell them what they can say and what they can't say and what they must do and what they mustn't do. They are compromised. And Donald Trump is making that very clear that they are compromised.
John, you laugh and clap your hands. You want to say why?
Yeah, because I find that Lloyd is touching the buttons of reality that Jamaica is faced with. But I have a question. In the absence of national protest, because you are absolutely right, in order for something like this to come under significant scrutiny, much more come under significant change, it has to be a national protest by the grassroots, by the Rasta, by the youth, by the urban poor, who will be on the street in such numbers that it's impossible for the police to come and brutalize or lock up 2 or 3 people. The circumstance for that does not currently exist in Jamaica. It will come back. The second thing you are right about is that blood to both the PNP and the JLP. None of them have done anything different in regard to this problem, which is going back, you list out some of the cases where I remember as a youth, them all carry, when you go to jail, them cut off your locks.
Absolutely.
The question I have for you is, what are some of the things that the society need to set up to bring an end? 4 or 5 things that you, having worked so long and so hard in this space, what are some of the things that the community and the society can set up to address this significant problem?
Well, you're asking a very good question, and it's not an easy question to answer. But let me just say that my group is called the People's Anti-Corruption Movement. And corruption encompasses a lot of things that I mentioned and talked about, right? And we have a 10-point program. I listed some of them already. corruption and landlessness, education, healthcare, ending police killings, taking care of taxing the rich, and so on and so forth, right? We are not a party that is capable of entering any elections, like the general elections that is going to be coming up. We're in a position where we have to do basic public education. And one of the things that we have tried to do is to have public meetings, right? Go out there, set up a meeting, invite people, and then when they come, we have a discussion and we say, well, A, B, C, and D, where do we go from here? But let me just tell you, we have a big challenge, right? Because the same things that you're saying, you're asking, how do we deal with this, whatever. If I want to raise a few dollars in order to go and rent a place, it's very, very hard to get $20,000 to go rent a place at the University of the West Indies, or to go rent it at some other place in order to have a public meeting and so on. So I am hoping that based upon the discussion that we're having here, and I know I'm not sure where each of you are and who you are connected with, but if we can start to develop a relationship where we can get political support, we can get material support, etc., I think we can work together. We can begin to educate the people. We can go out there and we can have placard protests, and we can capture the attention of the people. Because I will tell you one other thing. Based upon my experiences and going out there in the Tivoli matter and so on and so forth, a lot of people know me, right? A lot of people know me. I mean, I tell you, when we go out upon the street, the man in the street, man at the taxi, them just love hail me up. And them call me the poor people defender, etc., etc., etc. So it is not that the working class people, the oppressed people, don't understand the contradictions of the system and not willing to go there and do what is necessary. It's that we, the more middle class, educated, whatever people, just don't have what it takes to go there and organize them and educate them and bring them together. If we were to make a decision that that is what we are going to do to bring about the things that you just mentioned, I believe that you would see radical changes taking place in Jamaica. But people like us need to become more focused, more committed, and we have to make personal sacrifices in order to bring about the changes that are necessary. I'll say one more personal thing. A couple years ago, the UIC, the United Independent Congress, led by Joseph Patterson, had a protest downtown, right, against forced vaccination. I was one of those who was out there supporting that protest. And they arrested Joseph Patterson because them saying don't have no permit to organize this march on the street. The people marched to the Central Police Station and were shouting out that them have no liberty and this and that and that. A policeman, right, called Steve McGregor, who is now a candidate for the PNP in the next general elections, came out there and tell the people must move on. And the people peacefully moved on, and we start to walk away. And guess what? By the time we across, I don't remember if it was Orange Street or whatever, he and another policeman was walking beside him, take out him pepper spray gun and pepper sprayed the people who were peacefully walking away. I was one of them who was in the back because I was there with my camera as a journalist doing my thing. And, and I was pepper sprayed. And I have wanted to bring a lawsuit against the state for what I suffered out there on that day. But guess what? Me not no money, and me not no lawyer for, fine-tune the claim for me so that we can take the matter to court. Because now that Mr. McGregor will be a candidate in the next general elections, I believe that it would be so important to to take him to court right now and expose him to the people that he will be trying to win their votes. So, that's just another little personal anecdote. But we, the people, like ourselves, need to become more focused and more organized and decide that we are going to challenge the system no matter what. We are going to challenge it, even if we have to make personal sacrifices. Sam Sharp said that he would rather die on the gallows than continue to live as a slave. Paul Bogle and George William Gordon, they were sacrificed. And I believe, not that I'm saying that we have to go, we have to sacrifice ourselves, but we have to decide that we are not going to back down from these oppressors in terms of demanding that serious political change take place.
So you said Steve McGregor. You have evidence of what you just said about Mr.
Of course, I have my
McGregor?
videotape. I have video.
Okay.
I myself drafted a claim, but when I took it to the Supreme Court, them said, boy, some little details. And I would, I can argue the case before the court. I drafted up what the issues are, but some little fine tune where you have to go register the document or whatever. I didn't get any help. But he resigned shortly after, and he will now be the candidate for the PNP in the upcoming general elections. He was the senior commander, senior commander of the operations right there. Yeah, he was there, and he even went on radio. I will just tell you another little anecdote. I was in the market afterwards, after my eyes, the pain in my eyes.
Pepper spray,
the pepper spray pain. I was in the market buying a little food to go home, and I hear a woman say, Lloyd, them a talk about you on the radio. So I walked up and listened. It was McGregor on the radio with one of the radio station. I said, boy, we was looking for Lloyd, but we couldn't find him.
Man.
In other words, if he could have find me, he would have locked me up. That is what he was saying.
Well, that is assault. That is assault, right?
Of course it is. Of course. Okay. And I want the statute of limitations has not expired. So any help that I can get, I am going to take the matter to the court. And I would love to have the matter to the court before the elections start, so we can expose Mr. McGregor.
Yeah, I know one gentleman involved in that line of work. A brother named Mr. Rattigan. You probably want to reach out to Mr. Rattigan. Okay. Last, you have any question for Brother Lloyd? You must, I know.
Yes, I would ask. The part of the problem in Jamaica right now when it comes to the extrajudicial activities of the police is that both the government and the police is pushing a narrative that Jamaica is facing an unprecedented level of crime, an extraordinary level of crime, and that extraordinary measures have to be taken to fight crime. I'm sure you saw the response of the Commissioner of Police to the JFJ criticism, where that was basically his narrative, that we need extraordinary measures and accountability, and wearing body cameras is not giving us the leverage to use extraordinary tactics to fight crime. This kind of narrative is finding some ground, is finding a lot of ground amongst the population in Jamaica at this time. How do you counter that?
Well, I wouldn't say it's finding a lot of ground. It is, because I told you before, when you go up on the street, the people them know, so we have a corrupt police. They know that we have a violent police. I don't believe that anything the commissioner says or anybody else says is going to change that opinion. And when the police go in there and commit brutality against the people will go out there and do their thing. If you read between the lines, when the Glean and the Observer editorialize on these matters, they have to hedge in terms of what they say, because they know that the police commissioner and the Minister of National Security, they are protecting police extrajudicial killings. So I agree with the analysis that you've made in terms of what's going on, the police commissioner and so on and so forth. But I believe that there is a very potent element out there amongst the people who are not fooled at all by what the police commissioner says or the Minister of National Security, because they see it with their own eyes. And if they have to do what they have to do, they will do it. It's just like they don't have the kind of organization and leadership to go out there and take advantage of that situation and take it forward. So I believe that the answer rests on us, the people, that we have to decide that regardless, we are prepared to make personal sacrifices to stand up to the system and to organize the people. You know, that would be my response.
The next question for me is that.
Nita, if I may.
All right, go ahead, Randolph.
One thing, and I think you hit on a valid point when you mentioned about community policing and the police building back a relationship with the community in which they're policing. And I think that's one of the things that are lacking in policing today, right? I mean, the face of poverty is the same all over the world. And when you live in these poverty-stricken areas, it produces crime. And we can't negate the fact that there are bad actors in these communities, which the police have to combat. They've been paid for. And I say this passionately because I am a product of those communities, right? Born in Hannahtown, raised in Brooklyn, New York. And I've seen the struggle of police and these communities at its height, okay? And I can tell you that even as a young man growing in Brooklyn, if there was a better relationship between the police department and the community, okay, many of us would expose these bad actors. The sad thing is that based upon your address, because the policemen know what is in those areas, they treat everyone the same because they don't know anyone. Many police officers that are policing communities are not from those communities, and they don't understand the problems in those communities. But nonetheless, they want to make sure that they make it home to their families. Okay? We all know that policemen control a situation through intimidation, which is what they do. So when we as citizens now become a bit overzealous in our interaction with the police, of course you make them afraid. Okay, and they're going to react accordingly because again, they use intimidation to control a situation. That is the way they're trained, right? So I believe if you have better police community relations where the police of that area knows people in that area and have a relationship with the community, I think it stands for better policing. Because I can tell you, even as a young man growing in Brooklyn, okay, I was afraid of my own community. And in so doing, I had to develop a persona that goes against everything that I believe in. Because now I have to protect my family in those communities and earn my respect. And in order to do that now, I have to become something that I'm not really. It's not part of it. But yet, yes, because these bad actors are there, And we know they're there. And the police also knows they're there. Right? And so they treat everyone the same. But the reality is, in some of these poverty-stricken areas, there are decent citizens, law-abiding citizens, okay, that would love to see this crime being combated and brought to order and justice. But because of the lack of communication between the police department and the citizens of those communities, that relationship is not there. Right?
Well,
yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, but you must remember, you know, a policy is a policy, right? You must remember that in the United States, right, 99.9% of the police departments are controlled by white superior officers, and 99.9% of them are racist, okay? So even if, you know, things are peaceful sometimes, when they need to use racism against Black people, use the police in a racist way, they will do it because that is the tool that they use. And the same thing in Jamaica, which is that you have a high poverty rate and you have a lot of young people who never graduate from school. The unemployment rate amongst the young is very high, much higher than you know, other age groups, etc. And so yes, you know, sometimes the criminals are within that age group, etc. They're not employed, and so on and so forth. And even within the community, sometimes people are aware of the, you know, of the orientation of these people, right? But the point is that how do you solve it? And you solve it by making sure that the young people them have education. You solve it by making sure that they have a job and you take care of them socially, etc. The state is not doing that. And because the state knows that it is not doing that, then the solution is to use police brutality to solve the problem and to contain the problem, etc. So, you know, it would be good to have community policing, but I don't think you will ever have community policing because politically at the very top, the state, the government knows that it is not spending enough. It knows that the social statistics don't change. And so therefore, there is only one solution, which is police brutality. And, you know, and it keeps reproducing itself over and over and over. So we have to deal with this in a very strong political way in order to solve the problem.
Gotcha. I want to make a point though. You mentioned the social constraints, right? The lack of education and opportunities in communities. This is something that has been going on now for decades, okay? But here it is. Okay, my mother came to this country with a third grade education, okay? We are all from Hanatom, which carries a certain stigma. My mother came to the United States. She died as a doctor of theology. Okay? The difference is we have lost our moral high ground in Jamaica from what I've seen so far. In that the principalities that many of those people were raised with is gone. Okay? The youth after they have no respect for their elders. So that decline in our society, who do you attribute that to? The police or the people?
That's from a number of sources, and one of the main sources is from the society itself, which you have to blame the government and the people in power, because especially in those communities, what you notice is that the law is aggressive against the people in the lower communities, right? And the people who are in the upper class societies and in government and in politics and in power generally in the country, the law is not as aggressive with these people. So in those kind of situations, you're gonna find a moral decline, because what the people, what the youths and the people in the lower class is going to be seeing is the double standard. Why are you expecting us to live with this at this moral level, and you're not expecting another section of people to live with the same moral values? If
Correct.
you notice, when it comes to gun smuggling, drug smuggling, all kind of illegal activities in Jamaica, where the police and the state concentrate them investigations and whatever else, it is always in the ghetto communities. Where are the people with the leverage to, to smuggle and to get weapons and drugs onto a ship? Where do those people come from? You think it is
Oh,
easy for a poor youth in Greenwich Town to get 50,000 pounds of ganja and a container to pass, or on some suitcases or whatever to pass through the airport, right?
Well,
But
you're making a very
just
excellent
gentlemen,
point.
just
Let me just quickly add to
lie,
that, right? When
lie.
guns are found at the just 1 minute, when guns are found at the harbor, right? They never allow the people who the guns come to go and pick it up. The police go there and pick up the guns, and so we never know who was sending the guns and who the and who the guns were going to, right? We never know. Are they protecting somebody? Why they do it that way? That is a very important question. And let me just remind you one thing, right? In the 80s, right, when Siaga was a big man in politics, I forget his name now, but he was convicted of drug smuggling in the United States. And he went before a commission of inquiry of Congress. And he said that Siaga was facilitating drugs transshipment through Jamaica, and that Siaga had accumulated millions of dollars in the Cayman Islands, right? And Siaga, of course, cussed out, but he never took it anywhere, right? And he exposed Siaga, and then Siaga gave a piece of land, again, I can't remember the name of the land, to a man from Israel. And that man from Israel came here and had this big farm, right? And was doing it. But guess what? Very soon, Eli Tucson, I think his name was, Tucson was arrested by America for drug smuggling and locked up. I don't know if he's still in prison right now, but he was locked up, and his Siaga bring him and give him that piece of land. So we must remember now that these politicians and so on, they're involved in corruption, they're involved in drug smuggling, they're involved in gun importation, they're involved in all kinds of things, but they will use the police against the boy down in the ghetto that robbed somebody or whatever. But they are bigger robbers. It is said that 738 million US dollars are siphoned off each year by politicians and state officials from the National Treasury. 738 million US dollars. Is there any comparison between what the youth them in the ghetto are doing and what these politicians are doing? No comparison.
Yeah, but these politicians.
Can I say, hold a minute, Randy, hold a minute. I want to first welcome Brother Herb to the discussion. Brother Herb, welcome. Listen.
Thanks, folks, and greetings to fellow panelists and to friends in the chat.
Yeah.
Did we tell them why we didn't transmit last week, Mike?
Just a minute, Herb. We haven't heard from Patrick as yet, and we also need to hear from Maxine. I know we have Herb, but before I do that, I want to say this. I do not think one can disagree with Randy. The point Randy is making, that breakdown in our family structure, in our communities, also contribute to a sort of atmosphere in which the police, the state make use of, and corrupt politicians make use of, because there was a time in our community where we could stand and talk to a youth and say, listen, you don't do that, and a youth will listen. There was a time also in our community, if you do certain things, by the time you reach your house, your mother and father don't hear about that already. You know the way there? That sort of network, that glue that not there no more. You understand? And that is something which make policing within that space difficult for a lot of police. Regardless of how many plans them come with, it's still a challenging space they have to work into. But the question of brutality, Lloyd is saying his policy. Lloyd is saying his policy, and I tend to join Lloyd because, Mark, when the commissioner of police have come out and deny that there is a death squad within the police force, as we say, Jamaican people say, if I not saw something, then near saw, you know. It's surprising when the police have come out and said, and it shouldn't surprise me, because prior to that, there was a policeman named Chucky Brown from when at Clarendon. I think he must serve time now in prison to be part. He was part of this death squad in Clarendon where kill out a upper man over at Clarendon. So the killing, the police killing, and the police corruption is something that we have to deal with. We have to figure out a way to deal with. What sort of mechanism? Like is saying, by citizens become more active and police to police them. Is that sufficient?
Peter, we spoke of the social constraints in these communities, right? And we spoke on the politicians that engage in corrupt activities, like Thiago, to bring on the guns and the drugs and what have you. But the reality is that they use the ghetto youth that are less educated, looking for an opportunity to bring themselves up out of poverty and can't find a different way. So at the end of the day, it's about the choices that we in the ghetto make, right? As the outcome.
Randy, let me ask Patrick that. Patrick, you agree with that?
What was the question?
Come down to the choices.
What choices? Choices for solution?
Answer. Randy, your answer to answer.
Yeah, the choice was the fact that, Patrick, is that, again, those people in the poverty-stricken communities that lack education, lack employment opportunities, right? Lack adequate living facilities, okay, and are looking for a way out. Not everyone is going to turn to crime as an alternative to get out of that situation. You understand me? There are those people that have moral values that will not bring themselves to that level. But there are those who will, because it seems like a much faster road to come out of it. And these are the people that are constantly exploited by the politicians because they know they can, right? They're not very well educated and are willing to take the chances that most of us civilized people that knows that there are consequences to our actions will not do.
Yes. So then I get your point now, but let's understand something. The topic that we're looking at is one that is not new. There's nothing that has been said here today that any of us is hearing for the first time. Right? These are things which we have been hearing for decades. Right? And I said decades because, all of this goes back to, we can call it, goes back to post-independence. Right? Lloyd started off real well in terms of explaining that in order to develop a perspective on this thing, one has to get into the historical factors, right? And I fully agree, because that's the only way we can realistically, right? We can realistically take on and tackle the problems that are at hand. That's one. Secondly, one of the things we have to understand is, and to your point, Randolph, about morale, is that morale is not something that just happens, right? It is something that really comes out of our learning.
Correct.
And as you say, if there's no education, if the only thing a youth knows is hunger, right, and assault, and a fight to survive, he has no sense of morality. He has absolutely no sense of morality, right? We have seen the destruction of the families, all of that stuff, right? All of that stems from the economic pressures that people face, and the fact that all of this is perpetrated by a system that hangs over the people constantly, and has been doing so for some time, right? And like I say, I don't have to go back and mention it again, but the historical factors speak for themselves, right? We're in a post-colonial era, but is it really a post-colonial era? No. The principle remains the same. We're still ruled by the same principle that we're ruled by before independence. It continues. And as Lloyd said, moving towards republic, right? No difference can be expected. The principle remains the same. That is why the Constitution is not worth the paper it's written on. That's the whole point.
I hear you, Patrick.
And until we get to realizing that the police is really an element, a fundamental element of corrupt forces, right? We'll never be able to understand really what we're up against.
Well, let me just say this though, Patrick. And I hear what you're saying, right? But for me, I'm very passionate about this subject, right? Because I am a product of those environments. Okay? I born in Huntertown and raised there. Hunger Belly, yes, I know. Okay? We had a one-room tenement on Drummond Street in Huntertown, where me, my mother, my two cousins, and my grandmother sleep on one bed. My grandmother put the children together. We can't use that as an excuse. Understand? Because one thing, you said morality can be taught. And that's the one thing grandma taught. She instilled those things in us.
I fully understand that. But remember now, you're speaking from a position of privilege.
It's going to be based on the choices that you make as an individual. Because today, I can tell you, all of individuals in the one-room tenement have more house than they need. And nobody never commit a crime. We don't take no gun. We don't sell no drugs. That's my point. Choices that you make. And I've been trying to establish something in Jamaica for the longest time, because my passion would be to go back to Anatone, to make those youth know, say, yo, there is another way. There is another way. You can't allow yourself to be exploited by these politicians who will use you to carry out their purpose, and then them see them and turn and kill you too.
Can I respond to that, Randall?
We have no problem here in Randy.
We need to turn up his mic.
Far from the mic.
Yeah.
I think he's talking a little far from the mic. So
Randy, you're far from your mic.
Any better?
well, you're doing all right. I mean, I could hear you. It's just that I think you might be a bit far from the mic, which is why you might not be coming over.
Yeah, but just
clearly.
Can I respond to Randolph a little bit?
Last, if you can just allow me one quick response before you go on.
All right.
To Randolph, is that I'm not knocking you about the question of morality. Morality is important, but that is something that is built. That is something that is learned.
Correct.
Right? Like you said. And what happens is that you're speaking from the perspective of one who has really navigated and slipped through the cracks, as they would call it. Your experience coming out of Anatown and coming to the US and all of that is somewhat unique, right? It's very few people who achieve that, right? And what I'm saying is, broadly, when we look at the problems, we have to look at them broadly in terms of, as a community, right? What are the factors that really hold us back, and what are the factors that prevent us from getting to that moral high ground?
Maxine,
and that's really what I'm getting at. So I'm not knocking you for what you said, right? I'm just citing it that it's a very important point you mentioned, yeah. But at the same time, it comes with all the difficulties, right, of getting there.
Okay. Should I make a comment?
Because I know quite a few other people in that community that came out and did quite all right. My father included. You know what I mean? And I've got other cousins. I mean, and I can mention certain what should I say? Personalities. I mean, established individuals. Winston Barnes, even Marsha Griffiths. My father, Marsha, the girl. Right?
Can I just, before Maxine, can I just respond to Randolph?
Just a minute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Last?
Yeah, man, I hear you.
Before you ask a question, Maxine, I didn't get to. Maxine.
Yes, are you hearing me?
Oh yes,
yeah, I'm hearing you, Maxine.
Yeah,
okay.
I was asking you about your take. You have heard the conversation so far. What's your take? Is it a question of moral, because it's police brutality we are dealing with now? And are we saying that because of ill morals or with lack of morals cause the police them to beat you up?
No, I think there's, as Lloyd said, there's a deeper economic problem. And even my thought was that the states of emergencies that I recently observed over the past couple of years, they are all sought to engage social agencies to be integrated into the policing or whatever the emergency of the crime or whatever it is that they cause them to call the state of emergency. I don't know. I mean, from what I saw, the state, their incorporation of the social agencies, that means they completely understand the matrix of what is happening, why this crime and violence, and why it's so constant, right? So I haven't really heard any. I mean, you hear that when they have an intervention with these social agencies, I'm not clear what they do there. Like they bring in some programs to get to the young males, try to get them in schools, to target them. And they do see reduction in violence when there is this concerted effort. However, the concerted effort is never sustained because there's no money to you can't solve the economic problem that is creating this situation. For me, I'm trying to say that everyone knows what the problem is, and they know it is related to the economics and the living conditions because they do this. They put this forward in these states of emergencies. However, it's not sustained. It's not sustainable because they have no money to change the dynamics that they know is creating this. And so whenever they fail, or whenever the state of emergency, I would like to understand, even listening. So between these state of emergencies, when they end or when they phase out, is that when the police brutality goes up? You understand? Because then it is, it is a known equation. You understand? So when we are going to go against the police brutality and have a position on the police brutality, are we doing it, with the data that shows why these episodes occur, and why when they do put the resources in certain areas, it goes down, or this brutality doesn't seem to apply, but then they can't sustain it because the economic model, whether it's loans coming from USAID, it is just a plaster of and what do you call it, immovable reality, where, like Lloyd said, the kids are not educated. The rate of their graduation with low skills, that doesn't make them, employable past a certain level. There's so much problems in the education system, but I'm specifically saying, then how do we have a concerted what you say pushback against the police brutality when we know that they know, you understand, and that they make these attempts at management, then they fail and the brutality comes back.
So the
Let me
question,
just have
Lloyd,
make a quick point.
Lloyd,
All right.
before you interject. So the question then you should be asking Maxine is, are we asking the police to do too much?
No, it's not the. Yeah, well, the police.
That's something, and Lloyd, you can answer that also. Are we asking the
Meaning that
police
the
to do
police
the
are part
expectations?
the police are part of a social control management system.
Yeah, but I'm asking, could it be that we're asking the police to do too much?
Who is the we that are asking?
John Public.
The
Because
John
you're talking
public
about
that,
you're
the
talking
John
about
public that
30.
knows the John public that
Mikey,
knows.
can I respond? Just say something.
No, make Lloyd. Go
Okay,
ahead,
go
Lloyd.
ahead. I'm
Yeah, I
listening
think
now.
both Maxine and Mikey are making very important points, here. But let me just try and see if I could respond to the points that you're raising. One of the People's Anti-Corruption Movement points is that we need free education, okay? And in the 70s, under Michael Manley, there was free education. When Siaga came to power, Siaga said, we can't afford it. And they started to whittle down on free education. When PNP came back, they completely eliminated free education. I know for a fact there are a lot of children who not going to school because their parents can't give them lunch money, buy books, buy uniform, etc., etc. Okay, so we do need free education. Maxine is saying about the money, to sustain it. But here's something now. If you read the Jamaican newspapers, right, almost every day you will see Grace Kennedy or this company or that company is going to a school and is giving them some books, and that one is giving them some scholarships and so on and so forth. And these companies get the front page and they look very nice and everything else. So what it is really telling us is that there is a serious deficiency in the education system. And they leave it up to these companies to give a little credit here, a little contribution here, rather than having an education tax so that you can properly fund education and have the children go from the very big basic school up to the tertiary level, and so they can, seriously enter the job market and so on and so forth. So we are calling for a tax on the rich because the rich are getting away because and that's how they do it. So you have to do something like that, or else you're not really going to solve the problem. And to just respond to a point Maxine is making, is that sometimes when they declare state of emergency as a solution, and people say no, that is not the solution, you need to have social intervention, and then they play around, as she was saying, with the social intervention, but it don't last very long, because they're going to say it's not that they don't have the money. They will say they don't have the money, and so they don't do it for very long. But we need to seriously focus on those issues. What are the deficiencies? What needs to be done? And sort it out. You have state of emergencies and you have zones of special operations. The state of emergency is more forceful. The zone of special operations supposedly brings in community assistance and social program, but it don't last long, and it's not solid, and so we come back to square one, which is that the majority of the young people don't have jobs, majority of them are not educated, and so therefore how do they survive? And there's always a temptation to resort to crime. So those things happen, but we must always remember that it is the state and the economic system that is causing that kind of problem.
Lloyd,
Herb, no, before we move, Herb, we haven't heard from you, bro.
Hey, thanks much. I should make it clear that myself and Lloyd have collaborated over the years. I think the first time we collaborated was with the Tivoli Gardens incident, the hearing when they were having that. And I also work with an attorney who was representing the people that Lloyd represents, Mr. Costa, and the attorney who replaced her. So I just wanted to let you guys know I'm not a Johnny come lately to the issues that Lloyd is talking about, and what we see now, Jamaica has lost $60 million with the Trump cutback, right? With the disillusion of USAID, the way we know it. We would have to wait till the Democrats come back to power or some sane thinking Republican in the future to restore the programs that are worthwhile, that really cause people in communities around the world a lot of hate and discomfort. So we know what's needed to repair. We just have to figure out how we're going to replace some of that money, particularly within our private sector organizations. Impacts on Jamaica, community policing and violence prevention. USAID's positive pathways in Jamaica focus on youth violence prevention and community-based partnerships. These are going to face significant setbacks, and the government should try to get the private sector to replace the money that is being lost in this area. It's really crucial in building life skills and economic opportunities for at-risk youth. Support for victims of violence. USAID funded initiatives supporting victims of violence, provide trauma-informed services to survivors, witnesses, and even perpetrators of violence. The loss of such programs could leave critical gaps in care and support. And we're talking a lot about the mental health of folks in these communities, which includes PTSD, economic and social stability. Your CID grants often fund projects that address the root causes of violence, such as poverty, unemployment, and a lack of education. Without these resources, communities may struggle to implement sustainable solutions, potentially leading to increased crime and instability. And of course, like programs like Project Star, where you get soccer being used for youth engagement and development. And you can have other programs impacting summer camps, sport leagues, and mentorship initiatives that have been ongoing in the community through maybe the CDC and other community organizations, the churches. I know the project Minister Mured has up in Grantspen, and other projects that now exposing young people because of a lack of funding that they would not want to keep running the programs because they just don't have the money to run it.
So can I just interject here? And I disagree with most of what was just said.
We have lost funding, and we have to get people to dip into their pockets and be kind to your communities if you live overseas, especially. And we need to organize, Michael, to where folks know who to give, where to give, and the types of programs that are critical in communities that we're going to have problems with. Yeah, people talk about, we talk a lot and we talk a lot. Well, hell, here's your chance to develop that liaison with your communities in Jamaica. Inform us as to what's needed, and then let's talk about those things specifically. Lastly, I would just say that accountability is the most significant issue impacting the Jamaica constabulary force. I remember when the good commissioner came on board, he told the police on camera, do what you need to do and I'll back you. Well, those weren't very encouraging words for citizens, because the encouraging words would have been, men and women of JCF, I want you to de-escalate every situation that you come into. No matter how bad it is, if we're using swarm techniques where we outnumber a perpetrator, there's no need to rain down shots on top of this person. De-escalate, talk them down, have them drop their weapons, have them give up, do whatever is needed to save that life. Because shooting folks, especially in these situations where we have seen on camera, the police have the person outnumbered, outgunned, the person gives up, they tell him to kneel down, we hear a gunshot go off, and there's no explanation as to what happened. No officer is arrested. So, Lloyd, you're gonna have to find a way to get the that unit that's responsible for this to be clustered up. In other words, put more people there so they can do more aggressive investigations as to police misconduct. There's a lack of transparency because there's no cameras, and I know Jamaicans for Justice has called for cameras, right? This erosion of accountability is very bad at this time. Increased distrust, it's just causing exacerbation within the various communities, and things can go downhill fast. So I think the police commissioner is going to have to re-emphasize to his people to de-escalate. De-escalate. That's the key word.
Can I say something, Mikey?
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Randolph on the issue that
Morals.
the morality in the communities. I agree with you 100% that the people in the ghettos need to bear some responsibility for what take place in the ghettos, not just in the ghettos, right across the country. And I agree with you that a lot of people who come from the ghetto don't mean it doesn't mean that you're criminals or you have to be criminals.
Correct.
In fact, the majority of people in the ghettos are not criminals.
Correct.
The problem is that with the kind of policing that has been encouraged over the years, as Lloyd, I believe, would agree, has been the kind of policing that tells us or tells everybody that it's not just a few criminals in the communities that you talk about, Randolph, but that everybody in the communities are criminals. That's the kind of policing that we have been used to. When the police goes into the downtown communities, it goes down with the expectations that everybody that them see that live in that area is a criminal. And they're going to treat everybody like a criminal. And they can, because everybody is a criminal, them can shoot and kill anybody. And that's exactly what is taking place. And that is the kind of policing that is being promoted in the police force and with the Jamaica Defense Force. It's promoted by the police themselves. It's promoted, it is encouraged by the government. And with this government in particular, it's been a number of years that this government has been struggling to bring crime under control, and they have not been successful. And they are pushing a narrative that they are doing something by killing as many people as they can. The reality is that for the decades that this kind of policing has taken place, crime has not reduced. Look at from 1974, from the Suppression of Crimes Act that Lloyd mentioned, to today. In 1974, when the Suppression of Crime Act was introduced, the amount of killings was around 195 people a year. And if you look at where killing is going, murder rate in Jamaica is going, it has never gone down from 1974, right? You might have a little dip here and a dip there as the thing, but it's pointing upward all this while. But these people, they don't learn, or they don't care about the lives lost. They want the short-term thing to say, yes, we bring down the murder rate from 1,000 to 999. They love that kind of media kind of publicity. We moved it from 1,000 to 999, and the previous government could not move it from 1,000 to 999. They love that kind of publicity, right? And so they will encourage the kind of policing to come into the communities, kill some people, and then the people who are desperate for a solution to the crime problem in Jamaica, they hope will feel some kind of reassurance that they're doing something, right? And with the election coming forward now, that is exactly what they are doing. They go out, they kill as much youth as they can with the hope that the people who go and vote in the upcoming election can say at least they were doing something to bring down crime. And they're not bringing down crime. They're killing the youth, but the crime rate not going down. The problem that the police force in Jamaica face is corruption, accountability, and how them use force. Them
Lack
use
of
of force.
accountability.
Huh?
Lack of accountability.
Their use of force policy. When the commissioner of police was responding to the Jamaica for Justice person, what the commissioner should have been trying to reassure Jamaicans is that as a police force, they want to fight crime, they want to fight crime effectively, but they are willing to abide by the law to fight crime. They're painting a picture that if you're fighting crime effectively, the police force cannot fight crime effectively within the law. That's the kind of thing that we are hearing from the Commissioner of Police in Jamaica. And what that does is that if the police gonna use extrajudicial measures to fight crime, it means you're promoting the police as a criminal organization. And you're
All right then.
what we have just come out of in Jamaica, because there has been some improvement in the police force over the years. We don't want to get back to that where there is a wall behind which the police can operate, go out and kill people for politicians, kill people for business people who have been wronged, kill people for gangs, get involved in lotto scamming, get involved in every kind of things. But because there is no accountability, we as citizens can hold them to account. A simple thing as the cameras. This commissioner of police should have been telling us, you know what? We are trying our very best to ensure that these police wear cameras. Because if you have a scene of crime where you have 10 police officers against one man, right? And Indicom come and take some reports, some statements from 10 police officers who were involved in an incident. Where is the truth about the incident gonna come from? Right? The cameras were supposed to be that little bit. It's not everything, but that little bit of introduction to help clear up the cloudy areas, and they don't want to do it. Right? So we are saying to the government and to the police force, the police and the government need to ensure that the police fight crime, but fight it within the law. Fighting crime and fighting within the law is not two separate things. You can fight crime, right, and be effective, right, and fight it within the law. You don't have to be a criminal police for fight crime. And that is what we're seeing in Jamaica right now.
Let me just say a few quick things, right?
Lloyd, yeah. Let me go before you know, because I'm going to say something and I want to hear you respond to it.
Okay.
We all agree that the police brutality is a serious problem in Jamaica. Okay, there's a number of reasons for that. When we condemn the police and all them do them stuff. But I think in addition to the things that the police need to do, fight crime and all of that, I think we should not downplay the condition of work that the policeman engaged in. You know, a lot of policemen right now, the condition of work, they tell you from time to time. I do not think they even have a contract right now. The condition in which policemen work is a serious problem. You know, and those frustration and anxiety, no doubt, impact the way that they conduct them investigation and them work and them come out and take it out on ordinary people. You know, police been complaining for a long, long while about their working conditions, and any issue around police brutality has to deal with that. Don't you think? Don't you think, Lloyd?
Yeah. Well,
Nathan,
listen,
Nathan,
teachers
can I address something
complain
real
about
quick?
hold on. Teachers complain about their salary. Police complain about their salary. You could go down the road,
Government workers, civil servants.
different sections of the public sector, etc., complain about it, right? So everybody try to resolve the problem their way, how best. The police have power, so the police stop you on the road because you didn't put on your traffic signal, you're driving, and him say, well, all right, give me your money and everything cool, and you can go on. And you give me $10,000 and you can go. So the police is out there trying to hustle. That is the way they do it, right? And let's remember now that the politicians just recently, a year or so ago, got a 300% salary increase. 300% salary increase from the Prime Minister right down. They take care of themselves first and foremost. And we must also remember that we talk about crime in the ghetto and the inner cities, but we never talk about the crime that is being committed by the politicians and the public officials. 738 million US dollars are siphoned off each year by these officials, right? Including 6 or 7 government members are now being investigated for illicit enrichment. The Prime Minister himself is under the scrutiny of illicit enrichment. And what does he do? He goes to court and he files a lawsuit against the Integrity Commission. You know how long that is going to take to resolve? When after the election gone and years before that is resolved. The former Minister of Education, Lloyd, he had to resign, and he was accused of stealing money from Caribbean Maritime University and so on and so forth. He took the matter to court 2019, and now it's 2025. How many more years before his situation will resolve? But you go in at the ghetto now and hear say a man rob a man, and the police will come in there and beat you up and shoot you and all that kind of thing. That is the way that is resolved. So what is also important is that, okay, so there are gangs in the community, but guess what? You can have a resolution of why it is that you have gangs fighting gangs. And how do you do it? You get the people them to sit down and talk about it. Why should one set of man just drive into a community and shoot it up? And what gain do they get from it? So I believe that if you had community self-government, you would be able to, the people in the community would be able to bring the factions and the gangs together, sit them around a table and say, well, all right, what is the problem? What is going on? You don't have that coming from the government. So the government is not going to sit anybody down. They only have one solution. You send in the police, you find who the gang members are, and you shoot them and you kill them. It's just like what's happening in Haiti right now, right? The people are fighting against a corrupt government, but United States and Canada and Europe and everything else, they don't want a resolution. They come in there and they send their soldiers and so on, and them decide, say, we're going to fight these so-called gangs, rather than getting them to come together and sit down and have a solution. And why aren't they doing it? Because they want to have a corrupt government in power. They want to have a corrupt government so that they can manipulate that corrupt government. Well, we have to look at it from our perspective. We have a corrupt government system, and we cannot disassociate the corruption and the government and the violence and all the things that are going on in the inner cities. They are connected. And so therefore, whenever we try to talk about solution, we can't separate them and just believe that, well, the police is going to be able to go in there and solve the problem. They cannot do it because the police are directed by the government, by the state officials, by a police, for example, a police commissioner, the present one. Do you think that he would have been appointed if he was known to be somebody who was opposed to extrajudicial killings? He would never get that appointment, right? So therefore, he has to be part of the system, and we have to recognize that. So we have to begin to focus on the inner corruption that exists in the police hierarchy, in the political hierarchy, and the economic system, that those who make billions and billions of dollars, they walk away tax-free, they don't pay no money, and all they do is give the politicians a few $1 million to have their elections, and they know that they're not going to be taxed, they're not going to be scrutinized, etc., etc. And we are now facing another election, and I'm sure that these multi-billion-dollar companies, the banks and insurance companies and all that stuff, they know how to solve the problem, which is to give everybody $1 million and they do their thing. And when they get elected, they will protect them. So it's a very fundamental, deep, fundamental issue that we have to look at.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question about the knowledge that the police or the system thereof, they know all of the violence producers in these communities, and ever so often they put out a notice that they want John, Tom, Dick, Harry to come in to the station to, I don't know to discuss what, but it seems to me that they know who exactly, as you say, in terms of the police brutality. Is it that the judicial system is also involved in this? Meaning you have lawyers that are defending anybody that does anything, murder, anything, they can get a lawyer to defend them. And if you, the police, don't have your facts together, like your technical DNA or whatever, these people go back out on the street knowing that they are XYZ type of people, but they have to go back out on the street because the judicial system provides a avenue for them to be on bail or whatever. And while they're on bail, they are doing, same thing that they're doing. I'm just asking another, issue of how the judicial system plays into this, and why the police would think that, listen, better we just get rid of this guy, because if we arrest him and put him in the judicial system, he's a problem.
Can I say something about that, Maxine?
Please.
The police complain about that a lot of times, but the reality is, a lot of times it is through sloppy police work that a lot of these criminals get back on the streets. Because when a lot of these cases is brought up before the courts, the nature of the police work, the case that they present, a lot of times, just the level of investigation that they have put into some of these cases just can't hold up before a judge to say this is enough reason for not grant this man bail. Also, a lot of times, a lot of these police officers don't even show up in court. 5, 6, 7 times a case call up, and these police officers don't show up in court. Plus, the fact that a lot of these police have been used to this kind of policing where them don't want to go to court, them see it as waste of time because turn up in a court and answer questions when them know them don't have some of the answers to give to a judge. So them prefer kill somebody. You understand? But the major thing is that these police officers, as Lloyd point out most for a good while, is that it's not just like what Mikey says, you have some police frustrated with them working conditions and going out and killing people. These are policemen who have been told, they have been told by the JCF, they have been told by the politicians that we don't want you to go out there and waste time and think you're saving bullet and think you're saving us money by carrying people before the courts, right? Send them home. It's coming straight from the top. The commissioner said it, the politician them say it, the Ministry of National Security has said it. So it is a directive that them carrying out. It's not no frustrated policeman who because him pay no enough. He go kill a man because him pay not enough. It's not like that. It is some police who understand him job and him fulfilling requirements of him job as him supervisor, in commissioner, in Minister of National Security, and in Prime Minister. Tell him. So
Is
when
it,
you go out here,
is it interesting to
Folks,
compare the
folks,
police brutality to the brutality that these people, the group of people that are targeted, the level of brutality that they enforce against each other.
you will always find that, Maxine, the police are not criminals.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm just looking at a picture. I'm not saying yes, this is so
No,
or that.
nobody said yes or no, but that
I'm
is
saying
what a lot of Jamaicans are saying.
no. This is what I'm saying. We need to talk about statistical data. I'm not giving the police any free hand to say they are doing what they're doing. But just as Randolph points out, the communities also need to be conscious of themselves, of what small little decisions that they're making, domestically, is also contributing. So I'm just saying that as we go out against the police brutality and the reasons for it, that we ought to be armed with data to empower communities to understand their contribution. You understand?
Yeah.
So you're
We need,
actually
we
making
need
like
community
Randall's point
self-government.
another way.
Community
That's really what you're
self-government.
doing.
That's what we need.
You might not
Community
use the word
self-government.
morality, but you're still making the same point that Randolph was making.
No,
But
I'm
I
making
don't
the
think
point
that is
that
the real issue. That's
no,
not the
I'm
real
not
issue.
saying it's a real issue, but it is the reason I'm saying it, because I went to a violence prevention seminar, and I was shocked to understand where most of the violence, most of the gunshot wounds, most of the stabbings that goes into the hospital, where they are generated from. You understand? And they said it's majoritively domestic, interpersonal disputes. So I'm saying, whilst we are painting a picture of the police brutality and what, like seeking to condemn it, which we are.
So then the point is that it's a false picture being painted. That's the whole thing. Because here's the crux of the whole matter. Here's the crux of the whole matter. Right? If we're looking at police brutality, right, which is just one element of policing, Let's call it that, right? Let's call it that. But when we're looking at the problems that exist in communities and all that leads to you know, a criminal situation, what leads to, you know, the crime we face, the brutality we face, all of these things. There's a whole number of factors that come into play. All right. And I said I didn't want to go back over them because Lloyd spent quite some time highlighting a lot of them earlier on. Right. But we haven't even touched on the whole international picture of this. Because if you were to ask the question, where in the world do you see a low crime rate? The only places in the world, very few places, right, are places where the standard, the overall standard of living of people, right, is way higher than anything we are accustomed to ordinarily. Because what it means is that the economic plight is what leads to all this development, right? If we want to call it a development, the development of crime or the development of brutality or whatever, right? If we want to call it a development, whatever we choose to call it. But what leads to that, right, is the poor economic situations that exist in communities. That's really what it is. And the fact of the matter that what the causation of all of that is that going back for centuries, what we have been accustomed to is a situation, systems of oppression that bring on these situations. And that fundamentally has not changed. It still continues to this day. Lloyd highlight that too in his presentation, right? So it is understanding all of these things, and the only way in which we can really begin to stem that tide, right, of criminality and all of that is dealing with the causation. That's really where you have to go, right? Because the police have a fundamental role in all of this. They safeguard the policies. That's what police do. Police safeguard policies. What kind of policies? The policies set out against the people to keep them controlled. That's really what it is, right? The moment we start addressing the whole causation factor, we're going to find there will be a less need for policing. That's really what it would mean. Because there are places in the world that it does exist, right? And you know, where it shows signs of it moving in that direction.
Well, folks,
one of the points.
Hold on, Herb. Herb, we have to cut it now because we're up against the hour.
I'm just gonna say somebody made an important comment in the chat.
Go ahead.
Janet Mundy is saying governments give the police a list of names of people who are known troublemakers for them to be taken out. So if this is known in the community, Lloyd, if somebody comes to you and says there's a list out here, let's say a young police officer who just got on the force and don't like the taste in the mouth of killing, they come to you and they say, hey, I've seen a list of people who are designated troublemakers and they need a force to take them out. Or you're aware, who do you go to?
Well, this is what I'm saying. We just have elections and we elect politicians. The politicians have no deep connection to the communities. They don't live there. They don't have no relationship with the people. So the people need to become more self-governing, and I believe in community self-government. I believe that communities should come together. They should form an organization. They should be able to have community meetings. They should be able to discuss what's going on in the community, and they should be able to come up with the solutions to the problem. And if the politicians really respect the community, they will provide the resources and have a dialogue with them. And they will be in a position to bring gangs together and sit down and discuss it. But we don't have that at all, at all, at all. We only have one solution: sending the police, go and kill the people and so on. And that is not a solution, because it doesn't address the social issues. So I believe in community self-government, not just voting for politicians who are absent from the communities. The only time they see them in the community is when election time come, and then go out and then give out a little $1,000 here and $1,000 there. We
So,
need
so Lloyd, are you saying
self-government.
are you saying there's nobody you could go to say there's a hit list out and you need to investigate this particular superintendent in this area about a hit list? And
Because you see, a hit list is brought up by the police. Okay, I may have a problem with another person, and I say, boy, police, the man there is a gangster, he's a killer. I may not have the facts, but I will prejudice the person that I have a problem with and give it to the police. And then the police have only one solution, which is to go there and kill the person and put him on a list. So once again, I believe that we need some deeper social political solution to the problem. And I'm throwing this out there: community self-government. We need the people to be able to sit down and discuss their problems, discuss their social needs. The only time the people get a message to the government is when them lock down the place, block the road, and so on and so forth. And even while that might be good, there is no continuation after you don't block the road and the police come on, the politicians come and say, yeah, man, we're going to take care of it, and so on, and they never come back again. So we need to impress upon the people that they need to have a formal, permanent organization within the community that can address these issues and be able to deal with the political system. If we don't do that, we're going to just keep repeating over and over and over what has been going on and what we're talking about here today.
Brother Lloyd, I want to thank you for this wonderful discussion. And we talk about police brutality, but the bottom line from where I sit is respect for individual rights, human rights. That is at the core, the center of what we talk about, All we're asking the police officer, them, regardless of how you feel, your girlfriend might not see you tonight or what have you. When you come check us on us. Respect our rights. Every Jamaican is asking the Jamaican police to respect our rights. That's what it is about. And when we start to the police do that, then you're going to see some change in Jamaica.
Yeah, but the point that Lloyd is making, on that note, the point that Lloyd is making, that wishful thinking can't bring that around.
No.
200 years of brutality cannot be ended purely on the basis of the police suddenly realizing that they have a conscience. What bring that around is people control. I don't care what word they want to use: community self-government, community control, community council, whatever it is. It's only when the people bring accountability to the police that you're going to get respect from the police. I agree with him 100%. So my recommendation out of all of this is, until we have the people community, we need to have a people's manifesto that embrace some of the points that we have been talking about. Why do the police not wear webcam? because they know what they're about. It's like the insurance company come to me and say, put a thing in your car that when you go over 30, it going to register. You think I'm going to put that in my car if I drive over 30 all the while? No. So any of these small or big recommendations, I would say we need to look at it in terms of how do we carry the people from where we are now to the idea of something that give more power to the people. And my recommendation, back to the whole thing, is People's Manifesto.
Lloyd, what do you think about that?
Yes, we are in agreement. We may use different terms, but definitely, I'm in agreement with that. We need community self-government, and it's possible. It is possible if we begin to talk about that, ending corruption, getting the community to talk. We have Trenchtown, Jonestown, Tivoli Gardens, all of these people, and these people know each other very well. They are able to get together and set up
what
a
about
little
what about
and
Waterhouse?
the issues. Huh?
What about Waterhouse, Lloyd? What
You
about
name
Waterhouse?
You name them. They're all over, and the people know each other very well. We need to encourage them to begin to set up their own organizations, to run their communities, and be able to have a serious conversation with the politicians and say, listen, you're not contributing anything at all. This is what we need. You find that in Jamaica, anytime you need road, you have to block the road there. Anytime anything going on, you have to block it until you can have a intelligent discussion with the powers that be. So I'm not dismissing that at all. It's necessary, but the people need to now begin to set up some organizational structure so that they can discuss and they can decide how do we go forward.
How about you? How about
the CDCs in each community that can be set up on the SDC? Don't you have the churches that can organize within their community development?
No, those CDC and those kind of things are, they're part of the system. We need it from the people. We need it to be articulated by the people, and the people to recognize it. All of them are compromised and corrupt and taken over by the system, and they use these fancy words and so on and so forth, but they are meaningless. That's why I use the word community self-government.
Alternative. Until you can create an alternative.
Yes, we need to have an alternative. So we need the people them to formulate the name of the kind of system that they want that describes it and go forward.
So who's going to each community to do that? Who's coach?
Well, I am part of the People's Anti-Corruption Movement. I would love support from the people here, and we can discuss again. I hope we can have a little, contact group, and we can continue on WhatsApp or email or whatever it is and continue to discuss. Because I really like this discussion today, and I think we should go forward with it.
How about you coming back next week? Tell us some talk.
Sure. I'm prepared to do that. I am prepared to do that.
You are?
Yes.
Okay.
Come back with that plan, Lloyd. A plan that says, here's what my group discussed.
Absolutely.
And here's how we want to implement this.
As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of writing something now, and I would love to get all your email addresses and so on and so forth. So if we could form a WhatsApp group for the time being and then communicate, I think it would be helpful in going forward.
Lloyd.
Yeah, what I think, Lloyd, what Mike is saying, and I agree, is come back next week. We're talking on the same topic.
Can we end the program and discuss?
We're talking about some of the solutions.
Right.
And we can brainstorm around the solution. Even if it's not happening now, but we have to have a concept, and you bring that concept to bear and we discuss it.
I'm absolutely in agreement with that. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
So until next week, I wish each one of you a wonderful week ahead. The weather getting warm, so enjoy it until next Sunday. And remember to like and subscribe. It's all about Waterhouse Vibes. Again, Brother Lloyd, Maxine, Randy, Lass, Herb, Patrick, and John. Be good, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And you're